I think it's so funny, and I think this is because I'm generally coming from an accounting background and work in the accounting industry and help accountants. But people really do struggle with making mistakes, or the idea that they could make a mistake. And I don't know what it is, if it's because it's financial related or it's accounting related and numbers related, where people feel like it's not an option to make a mistake, or it's not a possibility to make a mistake. I remember when I was working at a big accounting firm, and they were all saying, "Oh, oh, my work is right, my work is good. Well, we do the right stuff, we get it all right." But when you actually think about any team of people that are working on accounting, any team of people, if it's a group of people and they're working on a task, there's going to be a certain percentage of the work that's done that is erroneous, right? And I kind of find it funny because, accountants, they sort of feel like they can't make mistakes. And until they know that they can't make mistakes, they can't do something. So they can't start a business until they know they won't make any mistakes for their clients. Or they can't take on a client doing some work that they don't know until they don't make mistakes, or until they're confident that they won't make mistakes. And basically what that just ends in is them never actually doing anything and never actually getting off the ground, because they're so scared of actually making a mistake, they never do anything. And I tell this story sometimes because it was fascinating when I first heard it, but Richard Branson, the guy who has, Virgin Air, Virgin Records, really successful entrepreneur, basically he was on a flight down to, was it Puerto Rico? Yeah, I think it was, no, I think he was going to British Virgin Islands, but he was stopping in Puerto Rico, and his flight was canceled. His flight was canceled in Puerto Rico, and he was seeing his girlfriend in British Virgin Islands. And so when that happened, his flight was canceled, and he's sitting in the commercial hangar, right? Everybody else is sitting there with the flight was canceled, and there's nothing for them till the next day. So he walks from the commercial hangar over to the private hangar, and there was a blackboard in there. And so he gets the blackboard out, there's chalk, and he writes on there Virgin Air. And he wheels across that blackboard back into the commercial hangar, and he starts selling tickets to everybody that had had their flight canceled. And he starts selling tickets to go on the private jet. And so that was literally the first flight of Virgin Air, which is now an international airline. And I don't know how big it is, but it's a very large and successful airline. And so, I found that fascinating that, he sold tickets on an airline. He didn't have a pilot. He didn't have insurance, okay? He didn't have a plane. He didn't even have an LLC, okay? He had nothing, right? He had like literally nothing. And he was selling tickets on his very first, air travel and air transportation. And so then people get all weird. They're like, "Oh my gosh, but if I get this client and I collect $2,500 from this client and it's for a QuickBooks engagement and I don't know exactly how to do it, how is that possible? How is that?" And people actually think that that's a wrong thing to do. That's actually the best way to do it, is to talk to the potential client, see if you can help the potential client, and move forward. And guys, when you're doing accounting or taxes, like, you're not dealing with life and death issues here. Like, even if somebody submits information to the IRS and it ends up being wrong, which, by the way, happens every single day, every single year, in tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of instances, right? That incorrect information is submitted, many times just on accident, right? It's just, oh, the client didn't give us information, or we misinterpreted this information, or, if you even think about it at this level, that little Starbucks charge for $3, was that really business? Was that really business? I don't think so, right? So the way I look at it is probably every single tax return that's submitted materially has some form of error in it. Obviously, we need to make sure that the errors aren't, so big that it's, there's any sort of negligence or a fraud, but every return that's submitted basically has some form of an error in it. I mean, most of them, by a majority. So, and people, I can't even imagine, right? The people that are, accountants and are sort of worried about, oh, making a mistake. I mean, can you imagine, like, you think you deal with a lot of stress making a mistake on a tax return, or a QuickBooks file, or a CFO engagement, versus, like, imagine if you're a criminal defense attorney, right? You're a criminal defense attorney, and your client is relying on you to make sure that they don't go to jail. And let's say that they're legitimately innocent. They are legitimately innocent, right? And they're relying on you as a criminal defense attorney. And, there are times as a criminal defense attorney where you lose a case, your client goes to jail, even though your client was innocent. That 100%, that probably happens every day in this country and around the world. So I think people that think that they have to organize themselves, or they have to organize their business to not make mistakes before they can get started and be successful, it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of the way that the world works. Everything that you do has the potential to make mistakes. What's most important is that you're just moving forward. You have forward momentum. You're getting new clients. You're trying new things. And, everybody that I work with, they're always trying to get a client first and then figure out how to do the work. And if you're never, ever getting clients, doing work that you don't fully understand how to do, you're not really pushing yourself. You're just playing in this sort of safe little box. The people that I know that are the most successful in business are always trying to generate opportunity with a paying client in areas where they're not even sure if they can deliver, right? Because what's the worst thing that could happen? I mean, our clients aren't even going to go to prison like the criminal defense attorney. The plane's not even going to crash, right? Like Richard Branson with no insurance and no LLC. Like, oh, there's just some incorrect information, or there might be a payroll issue, or there might be a tax issue, or oh, we might have to amend the return, or whatever the case may be. Like the worst case scenario actually isn't even that bad. And I think if you can start to realize that and start to accept that, then your fear and your anxiety goes down. You can start to take action and get out there and help people. And realizing that mistakes are just a part of business. You want to have the proper insurance in place. You want to have all this proper stuff in place. But, and I'm not saying, some people are going to watch this video and say, oh, he's saying you can get out there and make mistakes. I mean, I'm not saying you can get out there and you should aim for mistakes. I'm saying that you should aim for great results. You should aim for actually getting things right for people. But you shouldn't be so afraid of mistakes that it prevents you from getting a paying client, or from growing the business, or starting a new service, or working in a new industry. I mean, that's completely ridiculous, completely absurd. And the idea that you have to be fully prepared. What I see a lot of times is these people that think they have to be fully prepared. They get fully prepared. They study things. They study every possible scenario of how to deliver the services for the client, study everything about the specific industry. And then you know what? Their very first client is in a different industry with different services that they didn't previously study for. And so then they have to end up doing it anyway. So you might as well just skip straight to the front of the line, get the client first, get the potential opportunity, and then take that money, take that time, take that opportunity that you've been given, and just invest all your time and energy into absolutely crushing it for that client and learning every single step along the way. So I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that this will teach people to stop just delaying, and thinking that you need to be fully prepared before you can get out there and make magic happen.